For as long as I can remember, I've had an uneasy relationship with sleep. Growing up, I was never one to easily drift off into a peaceful slumber. My mind would wander, weaving strange, vivid dreams that often turned dark. At first, I dismissed them as a normal part of growing up, something every kid experienced. But as I got older, the nightmares grew more intense, leaving me rattled and exhausted. I remember one night vividly. It was just after my 12th birthday. I dreamt I was trapped in a house with endless corridors, each door leading to something more terrifying than the last. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, and too afraid to close my eyes again. My parents reassured me it was just a dream, but to me, it felt like more than that. It felt real. The nightmares didn't stop as I got older. In fact, they seemed to evolve, becoming more sophisticated in the way they scared me. At first, it was just the typical fears: falling, being chased, or monsters in the dark. But over time, the dreams became more personal, targeting my insecurities and unresolved emotions. It was as if my own mind had become my worst enemy. By the time I reached my late teens, I started noticing patterns. My nightmares were often tied to stressful events or moments when I felt overwhelmed. Exams, arguments with friends, or even watching a scary movie could trigger a restless night. Yet, despite knowing this, I felt powerless to stop them. What made it worse was the loneliness. Nightmares aren't something people talk about often, especially as adults. You're expected to outgrow them, to shrug them off as just dreams. But for me, they were more than that. They affected my mood, my energy, and even my relationships. How do you explain to someone that you're irritable because you spent the night being chased by shadows in your sleep? At one point, I started avoiding sleep altogether. I'd stay up late scrolling through my phone or binge-watching shows, anything to keep my mind occupied. But of course, that only made things worse. The fewer hours of sleep I got, the more intense my nightmares became. It was a vicious cycle that I couldn't seem to break. I tried everything to stop them. I read every article and book I could find, from dream interpretations to scientific studies on sleep. I even tried superstitious remedies, like placing crystals under my pillow or drinking special teas before bed. Some things helped a little, but nothing provided a lasting solution. It wasn't until I opened up to a friend that I realized I wasn't alone. She shared her own struggles with nightmares, and for the first time, I felt seen. We swapped stories and coping strategies, and she introduced me to the idea of lucid dreaming, taking control of your dreams. The concept fascinated me, and I was determined to give it a try. At first, it was hard. Lucid dreaming isn't something you master overnight. But the idea that I could confront my nightmares, rather than running from them, gave me a sense of hope. Slowly, I began to shift my mindset about sleep. Instead of dreading it, I started viewing it as an opportunity, a chance to face my fears and reclaim my nights. In addition to lucid dreaming, I discovered the power of mindfulness. Practicing deep breathing and meditation before bed helped me feel more grounded. It didn't stop the nightmares immediately, but it gave me a sense of control that I hadn't felt in years. I also started keeping a dream journal. Writing down my nightmares in detail was cathartic, like unloading a heavy burden. Over time, I noticed recurring themes and symbols in my dreams. This self-reflection helped me understand the underlying issues that were fueling my fears. One of the most surprising things I learned was how much my daytime habits influenced my nights. For example, cutting back on caffeine and setting a consistent bedtime made a huge difference. It seemed so simple, yet it was something I had overlooked for years. Through this journey, I realized that nightmares are a reflection of our inner world. They're not just random, scary images. They're tied to our emotions, experiences, and subconscious thoughts. Understanding this was a game changer for me. I also learned the importance of creating a sleep-friendly environment. I invested in blackout curtains, a white noise machine, and even switched to a more comfortable pillow. These small changes helped me feel safer and more relaxed when I went to bed. Perhaps the most empowering moment came when I faced one of my recurring nightmares head-on. In the dream, I was being chased by a faceless figure. But this time, instead of running, I turned around and confronted it. To my surprise, the figure dissolved into smoke, and I woke up feeling triumphant. That experience taught me that fear loses its power when you face it. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it's possible. Nightmares are like bullies. They thrive on your fear. When you stand up to them, they start to lose their grip. Sharing my story isn't easy. Talking about nightmares can feel vulnerable, like exposing a part of yourself that you'd rather keep hidden. But I believe it's important. So many people suffer in silence, thinking they're alone in their struggles. I want to change that. If you're reading this and you've been battling nightmares, I want you to know that there is hope. It might take time, and it might take effort, but you can find peace. Nightmares don't have to control your life. This journey has taught me so much, not just about sleep, but about myself. I've learned to listen to my emotions, to confront my fears, and to find strength in vulnerability. It's been a long road, but one that's been worth every step. So, if you're ready to take control of your nights, let me share what I've learned. These 5 strategies have helped me transform my relationship with sleep, and I hope they can do the same for you. Let's take the first step together. When it comes to stopping nightmares, the solutions are often as layered as the fears themselves. I've learned over the years that there's no one-size-fits-all fix, but there are approaches that work for most people if you're willing to try them consistently. The key is to address not just the nightmare itself, but the deeper causes behind it. Let's break it down into actionable steps, starting with what I've found to be the most effective strategy. 1. Calm your mind before bed. It sounds simple, but calming your mind is often the most overlooked part of preparing for a restful night. I can't tell you how many times I went to bed with my head spinning from stress, only to find that my nightmares seemed to latch onto those unresolved worries. For years, I underestimated how much my pre-sleep habits were affecting my dreams. One night, after an especially stressful day at work, I decided to try something new. I dimmed the lights, made myself a cup of chamomile tea, and wrote down everything that was on my mind. It wasn't fancy or organized, just a stream of thoughts that I needed to release. To my surprise, I slept better that night. The nightmare that had been haunting me for weeks didn't show up, and I woke up feeling more rested than I had in months. This practice of calming my mind before bed became a ritual. Sometimes, I'd add a few minutes of deep breathing or listen to a guided meditation. The goal wasn't to force myself to relax, but to create an environment where relaxation could naturally happen. Over time, I realized that this simple act of winding down was like creating a buffer between my daily stresses and my dreams. 2. Create a safe sleep environment. Another major factor in stopping nightmares is the environment you sleep in. For years, I didn't think much about my bedroom. It was just a place to crash at the end of the day. But when I started paying attention to how it felt, both physically and emotionally, I noticed a big difference. My first step was decluttering. I didn't realize how much the mess in my room was affecting me until I cleared it out. Suddenly, my bedroom felt calmer, more inviting. I also invested in blackout curtains to block out the streetlights and replaced my old mattress with one that actually supported my back. These changes made my bed feel like a safe haven, a place where I could truly rest. But it wasn't just about the physical setup. I also started incorporating things that made me feel emotionally safe. A soft blanket, a photo of a happy memory, and even a soothing lavender scent helped create a space where I felt at ease. the safer I felt in my environment, the less power my nightmares seemed to have. 3. Take charge of your dreams. Learning to take charge of my dreams was a game changer. This technique, called lucid dreaming, involves training your brain to recognize when you're dreaming so you can control the outcome. At first, it sounded impossible. How could I take control of something that felt so chaotic? But as I started practicing, I realized it wasn't about controlling everything. It was about shifting the balance of power. I began with small steps, like doing reality checks during the day. I'd ask myself, am I dreaming? And look for clues, like whether the time on my watch made sense. These habits carried over into my dreams, giving me moments of awareness, where I could decide how to respond. One night, I had a nightmare where I was being chased through a dark forest. Normally, I'd run until I woke up, heart pounding. But this time I realized I was dreaming. I stopped, turned around, and faced whatever was chasing me. To my surprise, it disappeared, and I woke up feeling a sense of triumph. 4. Address the root cause. For me, the most profound changes happened when I started addressing the root causes of my nightmares. At first, I thought they were just random, scary images. But as I began keeping a dream journal, I noticed patterns. Many of my nightmares were tied to unresolved emotions, stress at work, lingering guilt, or fears I hadn't acknowledged. One recurring dream involved being trapped underwater, unable to breathe. It wasn't until I talked to a therapist that I connected this to feeling overwhelmed in my life. Once I started working through those feelings, the nightmare began to fade. It was a reminder that our dreams are often a reflection of our inner world. 5. Focus on positive imagery. The final step was perhaps the simplest, but also the most transformative. Focusing on positive imagery before bed. Instead of watching a horror movie or scrolling through social media, I started imagining a peaceful scene. Sometimes it was a quiet beach, with waves gently lapping at the shore. Other times it was a happy memory, like laughing with friends around a campfire. These positive images became my mental anchor. When a nightmare tried to take hold, my mind would often return to these calming scenes. It wasn't a foolproof method, but it helped shift the tone of my dreams over time. Nightmares are complex, and there's no single solution that works for everyone. But these 5 strategies have made a world of difference for me. They've taught me that I'm not powerless against my fears, and that with patience and persistence, peaceful sleep is possible. As I look back on my journey to conquer nightmares, I realize that it was never just about stopping the bad dreams. It was about reclaiming a part of my life that had been overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. Nightmares have a way of making you feel powerless, as if you're at the mercy of your own mind. But the truth is, with patience and the right tools, you can take back control. The first step was acknowledging that my nightmares weren't just random. They were deeply connected to my emotions, my environment, and even my daily habits. By understanding this connection, I began to see my dreams not as enemies, but as messengers. They revealed my anxieties, my unresolved fears, and the parts of my life that needed attention. Over time, I came to appreciate the duality of dreams, the way they can be both terrifying and enlightening. Nightmares, as awful as they feel in the moment, forced me to confront things I might have otherwise ignored. They became a mirror, reflecting the parts of myself I needed to address. What made the biggest difference wasn't any single technique, but the combination of small, consistent efforts. Calming my mind before bed, creating a safe sleep environment, and addressing the root causes of my fears all work together to reduce the frequency and intensity of my nightmares. Each step, no matter how small, was a building block toward better sleep and peace of mind. One of the most surprising lessons was the power of mindset. I used to dread going to bed, fearing the dreams that awaited me. But as I started to approach sleep with curiosity instead of fear, everything changed. I stopped viewing nightmares as something to escape from and started seeing them as opportunities to grow stronger. Of course, there were setbacks. Some nights, despite my best efforts, the nightmares returned. But even on those nights, I reminded myself that progress isn't linear. Each peaceful night was a victory, and each nightmare was a chance to practice resilience. This shift in perspective made all the difference. Another key takeaway was the importance of community. Sharing my experiences with others, whether through conversations or support groups, made me feel less alone. It was comforting to know that so many people face similar struggles, and that together, we can find solutions and share encouragement. I've also learned to celebrate the victories, no matter how small. Every night, I went to bed feeling calm and woke up feeling rested was a triumph. These moments reminded me that change is possible, even when it feels far away. Now, as I help others navigate their own struggles with nightmares, I see how universal this experience is. Nightmares may take different forms for each of us, but the underlying fears and challenges are often the same. And just as I found my way through them, I believe anyone can. If you're reading this and feeling overwhelmed by your own nightmares, I want you to know that you're not alone. There is hope, and there are steps you can take to reclaim your nights. It might take time and effort, but the peace you'll find is worth it. The journey isn't always easy, but it's one that leads to greater self-awareness and strength. Each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to the restful sleep you deserve. And along the way, you'll discover resilience you didn't know you had. As I reflect on my journey, I'm filled with gratitude, not just for the tools and techniques that help me, but for the lessons I learned about myself. Nightmares taught me to face my fears, to seek help when I needed it, and to find strength in vulnerability. Sleep is such a vital part of our lives, yet it's often something we take for granted. Through this experience, I've come to see sleep as a gift, a time for rest, healing, and renewal. Protecting that gift has become one of my greatest priorities. For anyone still struggling, I encourage you to start small. Pick one strategy, whether it's calming your mind before bed, keeping a dream journal, or creating a sleep-friendly environment. Give yourself time to adjust and celebrate every bit of progress you make. Remember, you have more power than you think. Nightmares may feel overwhelming, but they don't define you. With patience, persistence, and the right support, you can overcome them and find the peace you're looking for. This journey is about more than just stopping nightmares. It's about finding a sense of control and peace in your life. And that's something worth fighting for. If you've ever battled with nightmares or found ways to overcome them, we'd love to hear your story. Sharing your experiences not only helps others feel less alone, but also builds a supportive community where we can all learn from one another. Drop your story in the comments below, or let us know which tip resonated most with you. And if you found this video helpful or know someone who might benefit from it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll join a growing community dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of our dreams and finding peace in the night. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest videos. Together, we can turn the darkness of nightmares into a source of strength and understanding. Let's continue this journey, one dream at a time.